As some of you may know, I go live on Instagram on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. And I mentioned prior to that, sometimes in my Zooms and sometimes online, that I'm going to mention current events. But I think I'm going to cease that as something to be included every single week, because the current events are just is just too much. It really is. The funny part about it is when I was younger, I was always told that history repeats itself, and it does. Um, I speak a lot about spirituality, having a spiritual connection, but don't get it twisted. I do pay attention to the current events that's going on, and as a woman of color, I'm going to tell you the truth. Um, you can call it desensitization, but I'm just not outraged at what's going on because this has happened before. I talked to someone the other day. They were talking about how crime is getting out of control and people are shooting up folks in their area. This was back home in Georgia. Well, they're doing the same thing here. And, they have this propaganda out about the gun control. And I mean, I understand that to an extent. However, there's got to be a mindset associated with someone who is willing to pull a trigger. They said back in the day there was a slogan, and I haven't heard anybody use it recently, actually. There's guns don't kill people, people kill people. And it seems like with all external factors in the world are being blamed on someone's instability mentally. They're emotionally unstable, mentally unstable. And anytime they get into some kind of trouble, the first thing that the people around them want to say, be it family or school or church or anything else, the first thing they want to say is, well, it's the current situation in the world. It's the economy. It's the fact that the parents didn't do this and the grandparents didn't do that. Am I saying that there weren't factors in it? Yes. But the thing is, turn around and totally ignore the fact that these people were unstable mentally and emotionally for some time. Nobody paid it any attention. And these people will turn around and get a gun in their hand. They were not taught, because the people who were supposed to teach them were not taught. They say my people suffer for the lack of knowledge. That's in the Bible. But it's the truth. If you do not teach what is right and what is wrong to your children, and I'm talking about just not the young people now, I'm talking about the people in my generation and the generation before that, yes, creating a generational curse. And you're going to take the little bit that you do know, which is wrong, and teach your children. I was caught up in that and made some life-changing mistakes that affected my children. But see, the Creator came to me and said, you know what, you got a second chance. Listen to what I have to say. Listen to my guidance. Start doing and thinking differently. Pay attention. Somebody drew a diagram. I believe it was on Instagram, if I'm not mistaken, because I was looking at Facebook and Instagram yesterday. And it was a circle flow chart. It had at the top of the circle, crime is committed. Then the arrow says media exposure. And then the next arrow shows social media exposure. Then the next arrow shows people talking and debating about it. Then the next arrow shows nothing being done but talk. And then the next arrow shows another crime being committed. I have nothing against freedom of speech. What I have against freedom of speech is all you're doing is talking. A lot of the people that are sitting up here, and I'm not saying all of them, they're using their speech as a weapon, and they need to do more than that. There's nothing wrong with speaking, but when you speak, make sure you are teaching. Not just gossiping about a problem. Not just whining about a problem, but teach how to address the problem. I went from living in a world where problems existed and you either ignored them or you just kept your mouth shut, or if you did speak about them, that's all you better do because you need to mind your own business. I went from that mindset to solving problems. I'm in a problem-solving mode. And I had a couple of situations that fell in my lap from people that I knew that were going through something. And the sad part about it, it's not the first time they went through it. They were talking about it like it's brand fucking new, and it's not. And I'm to the point now, you might think that I'm being difficult. I don't want to hear that shit no more. I really don't. It's wasting my time and my energy because there are people in this world who are ready to get their hands dirty. They're ready to change some shit in their house, even if that means moving or putting some people out. They are willing to make whatever sacrifices that they needed to make in order to prevent this happening again. But see, they don't see the severity and the consequences. I was looking at the local news today because I always want to get the weather forecast for the next few days so I can decide which days I want to go outside and hang out in nature. There's nothing wrong with that. And the minute I go to my news station, they're talking about how this young person shot somebody. And as soon as they put the picture up, it's always a person of color. Come on, y'all. What are you doing? But then you turn around and you have this so-called code of the streets that you ain't gonna snitch on nobody. Let me tell y'all people that sitting up here talking about you ain't gonna snitch on nobody. You keep saying that until somebody shoots somebody close to you and kills somebody close to you. All of a sudden you want the police. All y'all fools running around here talking about fuck the police and the police ain't shit and the politicians ain't shit and everything else. Every single one of y'all talking all that mess. Number one, you're living on the system. So you can't turn around and talk about a system that you're getting your bread and butter from. And number two, you're the main ones talking about, I ain't going to snitch on nobody. I'm going to turn a blind eye. You turn a blind eye to everybody else's situation, but when it falls on your doorstep and tragedy hits your house, all of a sudden you want the community to come together. You're on the news boo-hoo crying with your auntie and your cousin and everything else, looking 10 kinds of crazy. Oh, well, the police need to do something. There need to be an investigation. I'm willing to take this to the Supreme Court. But just a few months ago, when your neighbor 2 blocks behind you lost their relative to the same violence you lost, and you knew something about that situation, you didn't say nothing. You didn't say anything. You got on the phone and gossiped to the people closest to, oh yeah, I remember seeing them earlier that day and they was looking kind of crazy, but I didn't say nothing because, I ain't no snitch. I mind my own business. But then when it comes in your house, it's different. We got to get out that damn mindset, people. What do you think those people are going to do? Yeah, they'll sit there and they'll look at you at the news and everything else. And then, some of those people that are victims to the violence and you didn't help them, they're going to be like, okay, you know what, I'm going to return the favor. I ain't going to say shit either. Children wind up missing in the whole neighborhood. Don't nobody know anything? Come on. Somebody knows something. Somebody knows about some possible drama involving a child being missing, involving an elderly person being missing. There's an increasing number of elderly people who have dementia problems and different types of ailments that wind up missing. Somebody in the neighborhood knows something. But they're not going to say nothing until it comes in their house. We need to get out of that. We live in a world. It's not about you. And when you have people that you're responsible for in your house, they follow that mindset. They follow your behavior and wind up acting the same way. We got to pay attention to what's going on, and we have to actively do something about it. Not just give lip service. Don't gossip about the situation. There's nothing funny about it. And there are people out here on social media that are taking tragic situations like murders and everything else, and they're rebroadcasting the clips all over the place just so they can get views, so they can continue to get monetized every single month. I'm not lying. I'm telling the truth. You think those people are going to get anything out of it? They'll get those few little dollars every single month. But when all of a sudden it happens to them, they want everybody to come together. I distinctly remember about a year or so ago how you were just talking about so-and-so. Your video went viral and everything else, and you're on the screen pretending like it's such a tragedy and everything else. And in the meantime, in the middle of next month, you know you're going to get a check for it. Living off of somebody's misery. We got to get out of this. The world has changed. It's a totally different mindset and a totally different dynamic. There is a shift. And if you don't change the way that you were thinking before the thing happened, you are going to be left woefully behind. It's time to pay the piper, people. It's time to pay the piper.